top story this hour, Eritrea agreed to withdraw troops from Ethiopia. Prime Minister Abiy disclosed. And US Lord PM Abiy's commitment to look into alleged human rights violations in Tigray. Welcome to Addis News. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. Office of the Prime Minister disclosed that Eritrea has agreed to withdraw its troops from Ethiopian border areas in Tigray. In a statement issued by the Office of the Prime Minister after Abiy's return from Asmara, it was indicated that the government of Eritrea was forced to cross border and seize Ethiopian lands following rocket attacks by the TPLF Mafek League on Bahir Dar and Asmara. The Eritrean government, the statement said, did this to prevent further attacks and safeguard its national interest. The Ethiopian defense troops will take over guarding those areas effective immediately, it said. Ethiopia and Eritrea will continue boosting their diplomatic ties in economy and politics, it said, adding that two sisterly nations will build on the spirit of trust and good neighborliness. ETV will bring you latest developments during its 9 p.m. newscast tonight. Meanwhile, U.S. Senator Chris Coons commended Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's commitment to probe into alleged human rights violations in Tigray. Speaking at business meetings, Senator Coons said he is hopeful that the border dispute between Sudan and Ethiopia, as well as the disputes surrounding the $4.6 billion GERD, will be resolved peacefully. Gershom Melissa had the following compilation.
Thank you, Chairman Menendez, Ranking Member Risch. I'm so encouraged.
Presenting reports on his recent trips to various countries, including Cuba and Ethiopia, Senator Kuhn appreciated Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's willingness to probe into alleged human rights violations in Tigray.
For those watching, I'll just comment that there are resolutions all across our agenda today that are designed to promote democracy and our core values in our relations towards Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, Burma, and as well Ethiopia. And I want to thank Senator Cardin and Ranking Member Risch for your leadership on this resolution. As was mentioned, I just returned from a weekend spent as President Biden's personal emissary, meeting with Prime Minister Abiy and a whole range of senior Ethiopian officials and others in the international community. And I want to thank you for allowing changes to the resolution to recognize that trip, which I believe was constructive. I just want to note that there have already been some positive public statements by Prime Minister Abiy in the last 24 hours, recognizing the need for accountability for human rights violations, the first public acknowledgement of the presence of Eritrean troops, and just within the last few hours.
It is to be recalled that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed told members of the 547-seat parliament last Tuesday that any damage to the people is unacceptable and that the government will look into violations and hold those responsible for the violations accountable.
Positive statements about the possible resolution of the border dispute with Sudan and the path forward on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. There are other issues that we must address: full humanitarian access, the cessation of hostilities, the path towards free and fair elections. And I look forward to working with each of you on these issues and hopefully to there being more progress. So thank you. There are a number of other important items on today's agenda. I'll just briefly thank Senator Portman for his partnership in the Tropical Forest and Coral Reef Conservation Restoration Act and a number of other items like the anniversary of the U.S. African Development Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to work with all of you on a bipartisan basis, and I'm hopeful we can make progress in addressing the challenging situation in Tigray and Ethiopia.
Senator Kuhn is also optimistic that the Ethio-Sudan border dispute as well as the GERD issue will be resolved peacefully. It is to be recalled that Biden's emissary spent time to discuss with Abiy Ahmed and other senior government officials on the current situation in the state of Tigray.
بمليون سلام إثيوبيا والسودان أخوان
نقولها بالصوت العالي: لا للاحتراب، لا للخراب، نعم للوئام، نعم للسلام، لا للدمار، نعم للإعمار، لا للسلاح، نعم للإصلاح.
هذه رسالة سلام من شعب محب للسلام، من شعب وحدته الجغرافيا وروح الأخوة حتى دخل التاريخ من أوسع أبوابه.
بسلام، بأمان، بود. سلام، أمان، ود. نفس هذه الكلمات تفهم في أثيوبيا، ونفس هذه الكلمات تفهم في السودان. السلام والأمان والود، نضيف عليها المحبة، نضيف عليها الاحترام، نضيف عليها التعاون. هذا هو ما ينبغي أن يكون عليه العلاقة بين السودان وأثيوبيا. هاتين دولتين جارتين شقيقتين صديقتين، روابط ومشتركات أكثر كثير جدا مما يربط ويشترك فيه كثير من الدول غيرهم.
لا يمكننا أن نجني السلام بالحرب. السلام هو الخط الوحيد والحقيقي للرقي البشري. الحوار العقلاني هو السبيل السليم لحل الخلافات، لا بالنزاع والحرب.
نعم للسلام، نعم للسلام، ومليون لا للحرب، مليون لا للعنصرية، مليون لا للبندقية، مليون لا للتفرقة.
فندعو للوحدة والتكامل والإخاء والمحبة من أجل مصلحة الشعبين الشقيقين.
فلا للحرب بين شعبين يقطنان في بلد واحد. سعى المستعمر لرسم جغرافيا تفرقنا، بيد أنه ذهب في مهب الريح بسبب صمودنا، مظهرا أن قوتنا تكمن في وحدتنا.
لا للحرب، فأنا تربيت تحت أرض إثيوبية سودانية. لا لصوت المدفع والبندقيات، نعم لصوت العقل والسلام.
جينا بمليون سلام، إثيوبيا والسودان.
A prominent political commentator on East African affairs, Omar Reddy, said Western powers have an ulterior motive when they claim to intervene in Ethiopia's internal affairs. Afar People's Party leadership also said Ethiopia will never allow any foreign power to breach its sovereignty. Emmanuel Jorge reports.
The United States is alarmed by the humanitarian and human rights situation in Ethiopia.
Some Western powers allying with the US and UN have been urging for sanctions on Ethiopia in a meeting of the Security Council of the United Nations over the issue of human rights violation pertaining to the law enforcement operation in the North Ethiopia. A political commentator on East African affairs, Omar Reddy, said some in Western world are claiming to intrude in Ethiopia's internal affair, having a hidden agenda than being concerned about human rights violation.
The previous regime had an extended arm that turned Somalia, South Sudan, into a chaotic war scene. So they were weapons for the Western powers. So they didn't say anything. Had they been concerned for human rights violations, they could have spoken about human rights issues elsewhere in Ethiopia. What they are trying to do in northern Ethiopia is they are trying to save their partners in crime, in regional crimes. So it is a double standard. It's not about human rights. It's not about access to relief. It's not about that. It's about just forcing the Ethiopian government to accepting their terms, and at the same time trying to save this criminal clique. This criminal clique that has been helping them do their dirty job across the region.
Ethiopian ambassador to Switzerland, Zaneba Kabeda, on his part said all Ethiopians across the world should work to unveil the truth about the law enforcement operation in the North Ethiopia.
The attack, the massacres they have been claiming in Assum, there are a lot of evidences now coming up that they brought pictures from Nigeria and other countries which has never been happened in Assum, in Ethiopia, in Assum. So all the false allegations and claims by the TPLF and their cronies inside and outside is being disproved on a daily basis. What we need to do is continuing disseminating the correct information all over the world, wherever we are, to the international community, and also campaigning against their disinformation and the misinformation.
A leadership of opposition political party in Ethiopia pointed out that Ethiopia will never compromise its sovereignty rather than working together with developmental partners.
We have internal issues, and we understand that we might need some international support. But we also know that we have been free since we have established as a country, so that we will never allow any, whether they are international or any other organized groups, to intervene and challenge the sovereignty of Ethiopia in any case.
Scholars describe the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam as the landmark project of all Ethiopians. In an exclusive interview with the TV, these experts said the dam is a means to eradicate poverty from Ethiopia. Kasan Jan has more.
Political analyst Umar Radi talked to ETV English. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam should be considered a source of national pride and wealth, citing its importance to eradicate poverty from the country.
Ethiopia didn't get the blessing of anyone, be it Egypt or Sudan for that matter, or the World Bank or Washington. Ethiopia didn't get the blessing of these countries or institutions when it started the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. It is so because it didn't need any blessing. It is in its natural right, it is in its sovereign right to build the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
Meanwhile, another scholar from the Ethiopian American Civic Council, Deacon Yosef, underscored that Ethiopia does not intend to cause any significant harm to downstream countries, but striving to utilize its natural resources.
The way we have developed the narrative, what we see in the internal even conflict itself, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam are all together a single story. They're all interconnected. It is not a surprise that we have what we have in terms of the internal conflict and turmoil that we're facing today, if it was not for the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Our historical enemies, they find that this is the perfect storm season to put as much pressure on Ethiopia, to destabilize Ethiopia, to weaken Ethiopia.
Umar further accentuated that the dam would have no impact on the natural flow of the Nile River.
It is technically proven by experts that the dam meets all technical standards, all engineering technical standards that would make sure it doesn't harm the two downstream countries. First of all, it is for hydropower generation purpose. It's not irrigation dam. In accordance to international conventions where Ethiopia considers the needs and the interests of the downstream countries, where Ethiopia is filling the dam in extended period of time. It agreed to fill the dam in extended period of time. It's about 7 years, I guess. And last year happens to be generous. The rain happened to be generous. This year looks like it's going to be the same. I believe the construction is going steadily, and there is an evident level of seriousness on the side of the government and the project owners to make sure to see this project through. And I believe the second phase of the filling of the dam would happen, whether Egypt likes it or not.
He added that no one who thinks of Africa's progress can ever contemplate the blowing up of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, not to engage the parties to sign an agreement through negotiations once and for all end all the dangerous speculations and diswishes of Africa's enemies. Deacon Yosef also cited the experience of building various dams even in the United States of America is common to prosper the nation, and the same goes right in the context of Ethiopia.
The Grand Ethiopian Dam is not just a regular dam. It is a dam that would potentially can take Ethiopia out of the designation of a donor recipient nation to a second economic world. And they know that. So this is a far-reaching impact. You know, one of the things that most people talk about, don't talk as much, there is a dam in the next state that from where I live called the Hoover Dam. And the Hoover Dam, before the Hoover Dam, United States was building many small dams every week, every month. They have hundreds and hundreds of these dams. But the Hoover Dam, it became the final dam that really empowered the United States industrial machines. So much so, 15 years after the dam was completed, the Second World War was launched and the United States got involved in it. Many historians write that the United States would not have been able to win the Second World War if it wasn't for the Hoover Dam. It is that fundamental, even for a great power like United States. So you can just imagine how powerful, what it means for a nation like Ethiopia, that throughout history, that we gave away all our natural resources. 80% of our water leaves our boundary, our borders.
As to the scholars, any country of the world shouldn't attempt to destabilize Ethiopia with Earth's initiation to build the Abai Dam.
And finally, the House of People's Representatives has unanimously approved a new commercial code revising the long-serving one which has been in place for the last 62 years. Provisions of the commercial code that pose bottlenecks on the trade system have been amended in a way to create conducive environment for the sector, it was noted. The new code, with 825 sections, is anticipated to address challenges that long hindered Ethiopia from joining the World Tourism Organization. The code is said to be instrumental in facilitating speedy trade license registration and renewal services for customers. And before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Agreed to withdraw troops from Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy disclosed. And US Lord PM Abiy's commitment to look into alleged human rights violations in Tigray. Well, that's it for the news. For me, Solomon Daniel and the rest of the English team here in the studio. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.